Everything is aligning for you, finally. Not by chance, not by luck, but because you stayed solid when the storm tried to rewrite your story. You didn't fold, you didn't break. And now, the energy around you is flipping. Eyes that once looked at you with doubt now see clearly. Conversations shift, truth rises, and the spotlight, it's no longer on the chaos. They're watching you rise with grace, strength, and a power they can't ignore. This isn't just a turning point. This is your confirmation. The universe is loud about it now. You were never the problem. You were the light they couldn't handle. You're the calm in a storm that was designed to break you. And yet, here you are, unmoved, still rising. While others bend to every gust of chaos thrown their way, you remain constant, untouched, quietly dismantling every lie spun around you with the unshakable weight of truth lived out daily. Every time the atmosphere twists with confusion and noise, your presence cuts through it like a blade of clarity. You haven't had to shout, defend, or retaliate. Just by being exactly who you are, unchanged, consistent, grounded, you unravel their illusions. While they script ever-changing performances, you show up with the same integrity, the same heart, and it is noticed. Where some collapse under pressure, you move like the tide, steady, unwavering, and undeniable. Their attempts to bait you only highlight the depth of your self-mastery. The more they press, the more your quiet strength echoes louder than any argument ever could. In the silence they hoped would discredit you, your light only burns brighter. Observers begin to notice the pattern. They whisper about the one who never falls into the trap, never lashes out, never needs to prove anything, yet always ends up proven right. The tension builds in those watching too closely because they realize what you carry is not normal, it's otherworldly, and it terrifies them. Their attention grows obsessive, almost ritualistic. They track your patterns not to understand you, but because they cannot stop themselves. Every motion you make disrupts their false sense of control. They watch you not because they care, but because they can't look away. Their need to mimic, analyze, and dissect everything about you isn't admiration. It's a symptom of the chaos your peace exposes within them. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you were meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. Let them stare, let them study. The light you walk with was never meant to be hidden, and now it's doing what light always does: reveal. You've become the subject of discussions they can no longer control. The narrative they tried to sculpt in silence now stirs public discomfort, and what was once hidden behind closed doors begins leaking into conversations they didn't expect to be questioned. People who once nodded quietly now tilt their heads and wonder, why hasn't this obsession faded? What once passed as concern now reads like obsession. Their routine circles you with such frequency that even casual bystanders start noticing the fixation. Curiosity turns into unease, and those around them grow tired of hearing your name echo like a broken broadcast. Instead of reinforcing their story, their words expose something unraveling beneath the surface. Even those closest to them, those who once provided listening ears, begin to withdraw. Conversations meant to be casual get rerouted into predictable loops, like a scratched recording stuck in the same note. Every topic finds its way back to you, and suddenly You're no longer the focus. Their behavior is. The gaze shifts, and people start questioning what's really happening behind the scenes. That shift becomes undeniable. What was dismissed as harmless venting now reveals a disturbing preoccupation. Their inability to move on or speak of anything else becomes its own indictment, a window into a deteriorating emotional state no longer masked by carefully chosen words. Their need to pull you back into focus ends up pushing everyone else away. The conversations grow stale. The accusations begin to repeat. Every word spoken sounds like an echo of the last. And while they spiral, you say nothing. That silence is louder than anything they can shout. It's not avoidance, it's poise. People begin to understand that not defending yourself isn't weakness, it's clarity. The truth, it turns out, doesn't rush to be heard. It waits, steady, sure, and unshaken. When questions are finally asked with sharp minds instead of stirred emotions, what unravels is staggering. Their claims don't fit. The timing collapses. The motives disintegrate. Reality begins to dismantle the story they tried so hard to sell. Their version of events cannot withstand a moment of logic, and slowly, their credibility begins to erode under the weight of its own inconsistencies. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. It's like trying to nail jelly to a wall, ain't it? One minute, the story's this. The next minute, it's that. Like fog shifting on a lake just before sunrise. Never solid, never clear, always dancing just out of reach. That's how false narratives behave when truth starts walking into the room. You see, truth don't squirm. It don't hustle for attention. It just stands tall, quiet, steady, and undefeated. But lies got choreography. They got a spin and twirl, wear new costumes depending on who's listening. And just like Jesus said in Luke 8:17, what's been whispered in the dark will be shouted from the rooftops. It's already happening. The angles of their story can't hold shape no more. Each retelling has a different flavor, a different shade of emotion, trying to squeeze sympathy or stir up confusion. Whatever works in the moment. But people ain't stupid. Even the most trusting ears start noticing when the notes don't sound quite right. Chosen ones, listen to me now. When you carry divine truth in your spirit, you don't need to clap back. You don't need to scramble. The truth you live becomes its own defense. That calm in your eyes, that peace in your stride, that's the Holy Spirit testifying for you without a single word spoken. Because when a lie has to work overtime to be believed, and your peace just is, people start connecting dots, and the picture they see doesn't match the one being painted by your accuser. The vibration starts shifting. The atmosphere changes. Folks who are buying the drama start feeling tired of it, worn out from the performance. And then comes the stillness, that divine stillness, where even skeptics start leaning in, squinting a little harder, thinking, wait a minute, something here don't add up. That's the power of spiritual alignment. That's what happens when you walk with heaven behind you. The tale may keep twisting, but child of God, you don't have to. Just keep walking in light, because the shadows can only dance for so long before the sun rises, and everything that's been hiding gets seen for what it really is. Each retelling only widens the divide between what was said and what actually happened. The energy behind their words feels forced, overly curated, almost theatrical. Those who once listened sympathetically begin to wince at the repetition, at the artificial notes that clang against the quiet clarity of lived reality. Where their words bend and reshape, Your integrity has remained still. Without effort, you radiate clarity. In spaces where performance reigns, your authenticity feels like clean air. You haven't needed to rewrite your own role in the script, because you've never acted. While accusations twist, you've simply been living. Their critiques don't align with people's experiences of you. Interactions grounded in kindness and balance speak louder than any distorted interpretation whispered in corners. One by one, individuals start noticing the mismatch. The energy you bring doesn't resemble the character they've been warned about, and the cognitive tension grows. It becomes harder to ignore. Stories fall flat when laid beside the real you. The more they try to demonize, the more they reveal their own internal unrest. People naturally begin comparing notes. How could someone grounded, soft-spoken, and aligned be the very chaos they've been accused of unleashing? What started as subtle doubt becomes a clear pattern. Your actions, across countless environments and over time, remain unchanged. Gentle, grounded, sincere. No one performing can hold that frequency indefinitely, and eventually, that becomes undeniable. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $100 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you are meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. And when their complaints begin to repeat themselves, same tone, same words, same dramatic urgency, it starts to sound less like truth and more like obsession dressed in old clothes. The room grows tired, the listeners grow quiet, and the story that once carried weight starts collapsing under its own exhausting echo. The force behind their fixation starts to weigh down every room they enter. It's not just their words, it's the stagnant emotional charge that lingers long after they've left. Interactions become draining cycles where nothing new is ever said, just the same themes looping endlessly, leaving others depleted and silently longing to step away. That heaviness infects the atmosphere like a thick fog. It no longer feels like venting. It feels like refusal to shift, to learn, to elevate. The air around them grows stale, and the spiritual current that once held space for healing now retracts. People don't need to be told to distance themselves. They begin to do so instinctively as one recoils from a flame that no longer offers warmth, only smoke. What once stirred compassion now dissolves into background noise. Repetitions strip their words of impact, reducing what may have once been real pain into something performative and hollow. Those who once leaned in now disengage, not out of cruelty, but from exhaustion. The loop keeps spinning, and everyone around them is dizzy from standing still. Now hear these words, meant only for those awake beyond illusion. If interference clouds your clarity, this moment is not for you. But if your essence remains intact, if you feel the pull of something sacred summoning you deeper, then anchor your awareness and take this seriously. A transformation unlike any other is already in motion. This path is not a product. It is not performance or posturing. It's a return, a reactivation. We gather not for spectacle, but for remembrance. Here, we don't sell answers. We recover power, techniques forgotten, shields forged in realms beyond the seen. We defend the soul, not with swords, but with awareness sharp enough to slice through manipulation. Every cycle, we gather in secrecy, not in fear, but in protection, not to chant slogans, but to speak truths too raw for the world outside. This is not a seminar. This is a signal. You already feel the call. It's why this message found you. If you've always known you weren't made for this surface-level reality, then you already belong. The call comes weekly. You know when. And back in the visible world, the unraveling continues. Those originally pulled in by sympathy now begin pressing for clarity. What actually happened becomes a dangerous question, because there's no real answer. The more they ask, the more the foundation fractures. The fog of generalities clears, revealing gaps that cannot be filled without fiction. What began as support curdles into embarrassment. Those who took up their side in good faith start realizing they were pawns in something far more selfish. Loyalty turns to confusion, and confusion turns to shame. When pressed for justification, their reasoning collapses into vague emotion and fragmented stories. It becomes obvious. This wasn't about truth, it was about control. And the very people once weaponized as voices of outrage now grow silent, retreating from the chaos they helped carry. Not because they were silenced, but because they finally saw through the illusion. And that awakening becomes its own quiet revolution. The story they championed begins to unravel the moment impartial minds examine it. What once stirred instant support now provokes quiet skepticism. Those who once echoed the claims start to feel discomfort rise, realizing their voices were lent to something hollow, an illusion paraded as truth. That realization plants the seed of awakening, and with it, a slow but sure distancing begins. The sting of misplaced loyalty deepens into introspection. One by one, the chorus that once rallied behind the accuser thins out, replaced by silence and second thoughts. They don't just walk away, they retreat in shame, knowing they helped fuel a storm built on theatrics. Their departure isn't dramatic, but it's definitive. Each step away leaves the accuser more exposed and the illusion more difficult to maintain. While all this plays out, the contrast sharpens. You continue moving forward, creating, building, growing. They stay stuck in yesterday's arguments, caught in loops of repetition and justification. Their energy remains locked in a single page, while you've authored an entirely new chapter. Observers take notice. Where one side shows evolution, the other displays stasis. You begin to reflect progress in your actions and energy, while they reflect decay in their repetition. The difference doesn't need to be explained. It radiates from your being. You're tending to your internal world, while they rehearse the same lines from a play that no longer draws an audience. Where they circle the same thoughts endlessly, you explore new directions. While they cling to past wounds, you create meaning from the lessons. The emotional weight they refuse to release becomes the very anchor, preventing their ascent. Meanwhile, you lighten your load and ascend, not through force, but through surrender. Their struggle becomes more visible, not through your words, but by the contrast your healing displays. The more you rise with grace, the more glaring their refusal to evolve becomes. This contrast turns into a kind of mirror for those watching, showing what healing truly looks like and what resistance to growth ultimately produces. And the deeper truth emerges. Real transformation leaves tracks. It can't be faked, only lived. While they stand in the same place, spinning familiar grievances, you walk forward leaving footprints of wisdom, compassion, and quiet power. The universe doesn't just notice, it amplifies the contrast, drawing a clear line between becoming and remaining. The contrast between those who transform through pain and those who cling to old wounds becomes unmistakable in the energetic field. not only do intentions rebound, but those operating in hidden dimensions start refusing any effort directed at you altogether. Every move against your path boomerangs with amplified force, returning not as minor disruption, but as undeniable reckoning. They come to realize there's a force surrounding you that no manipulation can penetrate. It's not armor, it's resonance. Attempting to interfere with your journey doesn't just fail, it destabilizes the one attempting it. In unseen networks, where energy is currency and intent carries weight, your name isn't just mentioned, it's respected, not out of admiration, but out of sheer necessity for self-preservation. Whispers spread through quiet channels. Practitioners who once accepted any task now set clear lines when your essence is invoked. It's no longer a matter of belief. It's witnessed cause and effect. Some may call it grace, others call it consequence. But all agree, what surrounds you is not to be disturbed. Even skeptics start to question their certainty. The repeated breakdown of coordinated attempts becomes a signal even logic cannot ignore. It's not just that the attempts fail, it's the precise symmetry of how they collapse that defies coincidence. And while this plays out in unseen layers, a different collapse unfolds publicly. Those who once supported the cycle of negativity start hitting their limits. Not out of betrayal, but fatigue. The obsession no longer looks righteous, it looks draining. Conversations become suffocating reruns that spark no growth, only stagnation. Even the loyal begin turning inward, questioning the toll this narrative takes on their own spirit. What was once sympathy morphs into concern. Friends start dodging topics, family withdraws. The cycle eats its own tail. Eventually, the signals of dissonance come from every direction at once, not as an argument, but as a shared intuition. The tone has shifted. The script has run its course. The energetic space cries out not for resolution, but release. And those who once echoed the noise now fall silent, recognizing that some stories only live because we refuse to let them end. The longer something festers, the clearer it becomes which wound is healing and which one is being picked open again and again. What began as sympathy starts turning into concern, not for what happened, but for why the fixation never ends. Even those who once nodded along now exchange glances that say more than words ever could. When every voice around someone echoes the same truth, it's no longer opinion, it's alignment. The message to let go doesn't arrive as judgment, but as a whisper repeated across conversations, text messages, dreams, and random moments of clarity. Refusal to acknowledge it reveals the true resistance, not to what occurred, but to releasing control. Elsewhere, forward motion continues, laughter returns, lessons are integrated, life flows in a new direction. The one who once stood still now builds again, quietly, steadily. Meanwhile, the one anchored in old narratives drags the entire dynamic into deeper murk. Observers stop asking, "What happened?" and start asking, "Why won't they stop?" As days stretch into seasons, time stops hiding anyone's truth. The surface peels back. Repetition begins to sound like avoidance. Rage without evolution begins to look like obsession. And every moment becomes part of a cosmic record that needs no editing to be understood. Maturity shows in how someone moves on. Fixation exposes the absence of it. And over time, there's no need to guess anymore. The person chasing peace radiates clarity. The person chasing control radiates confusion. Growth becomes visible. Grievance becomes loud. And the volume difference is noticeable to even the most indifferent bystander. What once looked like passion now reads like stagnation. What once felt like justified frustration now feels like spiritual decay. Time acts as the unseen judge, handing down truth not through verdicts, but through patterns impossible to fake. People begin to whisper, not about what happened, but about what won't end. Those truly seeking healing don't resist reconciliation. They don't fear silence. They don't weaponize memory. They make space for the future. Those addicted to the identity of wronged can't do the same. And it's not just evident, it's exhausting. Eventually, even the most patient supporters withdraw, not out of betrayal, but self-preservation. Their energy can no longer be loaned to something that refuses to change. When every voice around them mirrors the same plea, let it go, ignoring it becomes its own kind of confession. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you were meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. Eventually, even those once swept up in the emotional tide start to see the stillness beyond the storm. What once felt like righteous support begins to feel like weight they were never meant to carry. The collective pulse around the situation slows, signaling the end of something unnatural. When too many people feel the same internal nudge at the same time, it's not social, it's cosmic. What rises isn't opinion, it's alignment. A frequency of relief begins to ripple through their shared environment, one that calls not for revenge, but for release. The echo of weariness grows too loud to ignore, moving through conversations like a current, pulling everyone towards stillness. And within that stillness, a decision is made, not by one person, but by all. The message doesn't come with thunder. It comes quietly, from different mouths saying the same thing. This cannot continue. The sheer synchronicity of it defies logic, demanding acknowledgement of a higher intelligence at play. Even skeptics begin to sense that something greater is pushing this story to resolution. The old narratives can no longer stand. Too many eyes have seen the same patterns play out. Too many hearts have sensed the difference between someone carrying pain and someone clinging to it like identity. The contrast becomes so sharp, it no longer needs to be explained. It reveals itself. Vindication doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives subtly, in the way people begin to speak about you when you're not in the room, in the way their gaze softens when your name is mentioned, in the long pauses that follow questions no one can answer honestly anymore. Balance isn't forced. It happens naturally. As false stories unravel, truth plants its roots deeper, quietly anchoring itself in the awareness of those watching. The illusion falls apart not because you exposed it, but because it couldn't sustain itself in the light of your quiet growth. There's no need to fight what time already exposes. Your calm becomes proof. Your integrity, too consistent to be performative, becomes the lens through which everything else is now re-evaluated. No matter how much noise they made, it's your stillness that speaks loudest. This isn't about who wins, it's about who lets go. One path leads forward, the other leads in circles. And the longer this continues, the clearer it becomes who is walking and who is spinning. What once looked like loyalty to a cause now reads as resistance to change, and everyone, from the loudest voices to the most distant observers, now sees it. Because when every soul in the room begins humming the same silent tune of enough, That's not just consensus. That's divinely orchestrated closure.